Hi, my name is Krysten Topliff, and this is my multicultural education philosophy. When I first heard the words multicultural education, I thought the meaning behind it was just teaching your students about the different cultures and about the world around them. However, it is much more than that. Throughout the world, there are thousands of different cultures and subcultures, such as religion and language, and it's important for those students that possess them to not be discriminated against or feel alienated because of those differences. After learning more about multicultural education, my thoughts on the role of being a teacher have changed because I believe it is a teacher's duty to make sure that every student in a classroom or school setting should feel like they matter and have equal rights. Not one student should feel marginalized. As an educator, it is important to help shape your students into egalitarians by preventing them on forming prejudices against others. It is important for students to not make their own assumptions based on other people's actions or what others say. Instead, they need to be taught to get to know the people they are targeting and not put them down. By having a community where every student feels comfortable, it makes learning a lot more fun. When it comes to education that is multicultural, it is important to use the 5 dimensions of multicultural education, such as believing all students can learn and being a socially just teacher that provides a learning environment that encourages critical thinking and prepares students to be active citizens in a democracy. Teachers should also make sure that students have a general idea regarding the hidden curriculum in the classroom, which consists of the structure of the school, such as having to raise a hand to answer a question, as well as interactions between students and teachers. Multicultural educators should also require students to think critically to give them the idea that not everything you read or hear is true. By doing that, it allows students to examine their own biases and stereotypes related to different cultural groups and hopefully eliminates them. Some concepts that I didn't know about multicultural education is that educators need to be aware that different cultural groups may have different expectations when it involves contact with the teacher. Some greeting behaviors are very different in many cultures, and it's important to be aware of those so you're not offending the students or families. In many Asian cultures, it is considered disrespectful to look at a teacher in the eye, whereas in the United States, it is the opposite. Also, many students might distance themselves from a teacher as a sign of difference or esteem. By being an educator, it is important to know the characteristics of the 5 regions of the United States, such as the Southwest and the Midwest, because it allows the teacher to have a better understanding where their students are from, and it helps give them a better connection. It is also important to note that regional differences, such as urban, rural, and suburban areas, might have an impact on your students that could be negative or positive. I would have to say that the concept I value the most regarding multicultural education is the idea that there should be total equality in the classroom. What could possibly be a better way to make students feel like they belong? Because I have been exposed to both diverse and not so diverse school systems as a student myself, I feel like I have an advantage. Since I am an English-speaking female, students will be used to an individual like me teaching. However, since I plan on teaching in Florida, I will be considered the minority when it comes to my students. I have also been exposed to the Hispanic culture, which is most of the population in Florida, and I have taken a number of Spanish-speaking classes, so I feel like it will help me connect with those students as well as the others. This half of the semester, I was able to gain more knowledge about concepts such as religion, gender and culture, and sexual orientation that will benefit me when I become an educator. It is important to know about these concepts so we can handle issues when we are being faced with them. It is our duty as educators to make our students feel safe and comfortable, and by being more informed of these concepts, it has given me a better understanding of what a child might go through that is dealing with these problems. One of the first concepts that changed my thoughts on the role of being a teacher was race and ethnicity. Other than my own, it was hard for me to relate to others,
until I began learning about a child's point of view. For example, the movie we watched in class about the doll experiment clearly showed that children believed the dark doll was ugly and mean, whereas the white doll was pretty and nice. This showed that not only do white individuals still have prejudices against African Americans, but also African Americans are starting to believe that the prejudices against them are true. We also must remember that students are heavily influenced by the world around them. As shown in the Jane Elliott video about the blue eyes, brown eyes experiment, when she told her third grade class that the blue-eyed people were better than the brown-eyed people, she saw her nice, caring, and thoughtful students turn into mean, nasty, and discriminating individuals in the span of 15 minutes. Even though the ultimate goal as a multicultural educator is to refrain students from creating stereotypes and biases in the classroom, it is important to note that these students have already generated these biases and stereotypes before they have entered your classroom. However, by modeling and showing students that everyone is equal in your classroom, it will help the process of getting rid of them. As an educator, it is essential to know about the religious pluralism that is displayed in your classroom. In the United States alone, there are 313 religions practiced, and the likelihood that all students in a classroom belong to the same religion is slim to none. Students should be exposed to different religions as a way to better understand other ways of thinking or everyday life. Many religions, such as Catholicism, Judaism, and Islam, have many rules and regulations that a person must follow, such as apparel or what they are allowed to eat. There are also holidays, such as Ash Wednesday, the Sabbath, or Ramadan, that are not taken into consideration in some school systems that might affect a student's schedule, and it is important to talk to those parents of those students so we can be fully aware of that. Teachers should also be aware about gender and the differences between boys and girls in the classroom. Children have a sense of gender identification by the time they are 18 months old, meaning that they know whether they are a boy or girl. Many times, parents help with that identification by dressing them up in a certain color or having them play with a toy that is geared toward a gender's liking. Even though there are no hormonal differences between boys and girls until the time they hit puberty, it is important to remember that each gender is known to have its own ways of thinking and differences in academic success. During a child's younger years, they begin learning about the different gender roles by observing the world around them. They are mostly influenced by the media and their parents on what it means to be a female or male, such as girls like Barbies and makeup, whereas boys like Chucks and dirt. Being an educator, it is important to incorporate a non-sexist education in your classroom by ensuring that the two sexes are treated fairly and equitably in the curriculum, the interactions with teachers, and the instructional and extracurricular activities. There are many ways to promote non-sexist classrooms, such as teachers requiring readings that include women authors as well as male authors, and male students learning to participate in stereotypical female activities, and vice versa. As an educator, it is vital to be familiar with sexual orientation and all that applies with it. There will be some cases that you will have a student that is part of the LGBTQ community or has a family member that is a part of it. As we watched in the video, The Story of Jazz, it is very possible to have a child that is gay or transgendered, and it is important to be aware of the struggles that they may face, whether it's at home or at school, and how to confront them. As we saw in the activity, The Coming Out of Pat, there are many issues such as losing friends, respect to family members, or even loss of purpose that could lead to serious consequences such as suicide. It is important that all students feel comfortable and are not marginalized because of this. Educators should also know the difference between all socioeconomic classes as well as where your students' families fit in the spectrum. The classes include upper class, upper middle class, lower middle class, working class, and underclass. Unfortunately, curriculum and textbooks usually focus on the values and experiences of the middle class, which means that the existence of nearly half the population is not validated in the curricula of most schools. It is important to change the curriculum to where all students can see themselves reflected in it. In a classroom in which democracy and equity are important, low-income students should receive priority time from teachers and have access to the necessary resources to help them become academically competitive with middle-class students. Because I am a young, white, Christian, and middle-class woman that lives in the United States, I am considered a majority in my field of being an elementary education teacher. However, because I am privileged, I have biases regarding lower-class individuals as well as minorities that I will have to overcome in order to be an efficient educator. The questions I still have regarding multicultural education is what is the most important concept that a teacher must accomplish in order to become a multicultural educator, and how do they accomplish this task? Another question I have is what is the thinking process of an individual that is part of the LGBTQ community, and how do they generalize themselves as being part of that community? In conclusion, I believe in order to be a multicultural educator, one must be accepting. They must believe that every student has the capability to learn just as much as the next, and must never make a student feel like they don't belong. They should never discriminate against or make assumptions about an individual based on their religion, race, social status, or sexual orientation, and make sure their students do the same. Teaching about multicultural education is vital in order to help students grow and gain more knowledge about the people around them, as well as learn more about themselves. By incorporating it into my own classroom, it will help me create a comfortable environment for myself, my students, and their parents to be a part of, which I believe is the most important of all. So there it is. That is my multicultural philosophy. I hope you enjoyed it.